And gorgeous afternoon in downtown Charlottesville on Market Street in our building, the Macklin Building. Just a hop, skip, and a jump from everything in Charlottesville and Albemarle County and in Central Virginia. Judah Wickower and I may do some role playing on the I Love CVille show. And no, Bill McChesney, the great Giardini, is not returning. What was your nickname on the show? I was the great Giardini. What were you?
I have laboriously scrubbed it from my memory.
He's blacked it out of his memory. I was a proud great Giardini. We will do some role playing on the program. I will embody the persona, the moniker, and the mindset of Bert Ellis. Perhaps there will be props involved. Judah will embody the stoicism,
stoicism,
the professionalism, and the suit-wearing nature of the governor, Glenn Youngkin. Today,
the quarter zip.
You've worn that quarter zip once or twice, Judah.
I have. I'm just saying that.
Are you on camera? Can they see your face?
No, they can't.
Can they see your face, voice of God?
No.
Please, sir?
No, thank you.
Wait, you're just going to be a voiceover on the show? Look like I'm talking to myself over here? Either this morning or this afternoon, we know the meeting was today, according to the Washington Post. Mr. Bert Ellis of the Board of Visitors and Glenn Youngkin, the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, are having a meeting where Youngkin is going to flex his political muscle and go toe-to-toe with Ellis's bravado in a brouhaha of significant proportions. Youngkin is going to say, get off the board of directors. Get off the board of visitors. I want you off. Ellis is going to say, no way, Jose.
You wanted the bulldog, you got a bulldog.
You wanted a bulldog, you wanted a pit bull, you wanted a tenacious guard dog. I am what you thought I would be. They are who we thought they were. Whatever the football quote is. So I'm going to be Bert Ellis. Prop may be included. Judah's going to be Glenn Youngkin. And we're going to do some role playing on how this meeting could or could not play out. I'm really curious to see how Judah lives up to the role of Glenn Youngkin.
I mean, now that I've got to switch roles, we'll see.
President Ryan has issued a statement to students and faculty. And this statement to students and faculty basically is like, dude, we know that the message, the report on the triple murder, the Wahoo redacted report, is frustrating, but our hands are tied. There's privacy laws.
It's still very strange.
And there's only so much that we can do. Virginia is also saying that really there was only so much that they could do, Judah, to prevent these triple homicides from happening, which I also find, frankly, corporate word salad to minimize and diminish as much exposure as possible.
But that's not just the school saying that. That's the reports.
Oh, a guy had a gun and got in trouble with the law. A guy had a gun on grounds and was reported by students for having a gun on grounds and for being potentially mentally unstable. And nothing was done. I can assure you, moving forward, the protocol will change. I hope to God it will change. We'll talk about it on today's program. Very curious to see what Judah Wickower has to say on this. On today's show, the mayor and other local influencers and people of note, Judah, chose on their own accord through the event Sleep Out CVille to spend a day living the life of a houseless or homeless individual.
Was it a whole day? I thought it was just they spent an evening.
Spent an evening. I'd say it's a good portion of a day. Good portion of a day. Juan Diego Wade was one of them. I'm going to ask you this question. If there was a place in the Charlottesville area that you were houseless or homeless and you needed to spend one day, multiple days, weeks, or months or longer sleeping outside, where would you choose and why?
It's an easy one.
Oh, Judah says that's an easy one. Wow, speaks with confidence and conviction. Not so easy for me. I may choose the warmth and the comfort of the Doyle Hotel or the Kimpton or the newly renovated Omni with that fantastic bar.
Apparently, you're confused about the idea of sleeping out.
Great response, Judah. On today's program, we're going to ask you this question. If you had to run a ghost kitchen, and I think this may be the future of food and beverage. Want to hear something crazy? I went by Great Harvest Bread Company this morning. The new owners of Great Harvest, Chris and Tracy Crowley, fantastic people. Bought the business from Aileen. And Chris and Tracy went and saw my clients. We brokered this deal. Closed a few weeks ago. It's about 20, it closed 3 weeks ago. God, time is flying. 21 days ago, 22 days ago, it closed. Big time deal. Chris and Tracy were at a Great Harvest, had a great conversation with Tracy and Chris, saw the positive changes they were doing to Great Harvest in McIntyre Plaza. Bought a sticky Cinnabon. It was delicious. If you are not trying the baked goods at Great Harvest, you are missing a special, special place. Had a cup of coffee. It was $5 for the Cinnabon for no icing, $3.50 for the coffee. I thought the pricing was very fair. I thought the $5 on the sticky bun was below market. The sticky bun was that fresh and delicious. And this is completely out of their control, but I looked at the bill, Judah. Mm-hmm. And the $8.98 for the Great Harvest Cinnabon and small coffee, both of them fantastic. Service with a smile. Included 7% meals tax, 5.3% Virginia tax, and 1% grocery tax. We're talking 13.3% of the bill was grocery, Virginia, and local meals taxes. 13.3%. Proud to support our clients as they purchased Great Harvest Bread Company about 3 weeks ago, guys. Big time plans for that entrepreneurial couple. I want to talk on today's show which business locally is or could be a worse neighbor than Tesla opening in Stonefield.
I think we have our top answer already.
Okay, I mean the owner of the Sir Speedy franchise locally, he says it's clearly the University of Virginia, and he highlights a tax-advantaged, tax-paying, subsidized monstrosity that can drive up property more easily than any developer. Is the university the worst neighbor out there? Is Tesla a worse neighbor than the University of Virginia? I mean, have you been another deal that we brokered? Moe's on Ivy Road. Helped Derek Bond buy Moe's. Derek's doing fantastic work at Moe's. Have you noticed what is going on next to Moe's? They're building an apartment complex right next to Moe's Original Barbecue on Ivy Road. The fence, the chain link fence that is offering protection not suggesting entry. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm drawing a blank here. Kind of. Discouraging entry to the construction site. The chain link fence is like an inch or two away from Moe's, their actual building. This is in the site of the old Truist location.
Yeah.
Torn down the bank, now doing the project. It's literally a couple inches from the door. We'll talk about neighbors in the business community and how Tesla stacks up and whether it's a clear-cut worse neighbor. And if you were going to run a ghost kitchen, like who's going to create this business? Who's going to rent a kitchen, Judah? A commercial kitchen. You can't do this out of the house. That would be breaking numerous laws doing this out of your house. But you rent a commercial kitchen and you build a ghost kitchen business model. This is kind of like what Harrison CVille is doing in some ways over at CVille and CVille Kitchen.
Yeah.
Where you have various business models out of one kitchen and then you use online delivery pickup. No in-store pickup. No, you offer in-store pickup. No in-store dining. No front-of-the-house staff. If you want to eat the food, you use DoorDash or Uber Eats or you pick it up out of our brick and mortar, out of our ghost kitchen, and you leave. But somebody opens a ghost kitchen concept that is like sandwiches, dessert, Italian.
So would they
salads.
Be the owner of the kitchen or just another?
They would rent a kitchen. They'd have staff that employs the kitchen and works the kitchen. Then they utilize social media like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to build the respective brands. And then they partner with third-party delivery to sell the food and get the food to you. Or you can pick it up at the Ghost Kitchen and pick up capacity.
Okay.
Who's going to do that idea? And where's it going to be located? I want to talk about that on today's show. Also on the program, I'm going to ask you the question. St. Anne's Belfield has a point guard that's a senior at the school. His name is Chance Mallory, a 4-star basketball recruit, one of the best point guards in the nation. He has recommitted to Ryan Odom in the University of Virginia. Is this young man, he's 17, he's 18 years old, is he making more than Anthony Calandria made, $800,000 last year? Calandria, a quarterback for a Virginia football team that was a cellar dweller, a terrible team playing in front of empty stadiums, and still the young man made $800,000 to be the gunslinger of Tony Elliott's football program. Is the point guard of Ryan Odom's basketball program going to make more than $800,000? And I'm going to make a convincing argument why I think he's worth way more than $800,000 on today's program. A lot we're going to cover on the show. I think the show is pretty good. Judah and I have done a decent job of putting this together, including children today taking longer, Judah, to run the mile by 90 seconds versus kids in the 80s. Today's kids running the mile, on average, 90 seconds slower than children in the 1980s. If that is not a indictment of screen time and the sluggishness, the obesity, the laziness, the lethargy that is birthed from screen time, I don't know what is an indictment.
So we don't think they're just taking their time?
Is there a competitive bone in your body?
Somewhere, maybe.
Where is the competitive nature of Judah Wickhauer? When you put me at a starting block and there's a stopwatch or there's people next to me or I'm playing against somebody in some capacity, I think there's nothing more I want to do in life than win.
I know.
Literally nothing more. I hate to lose more than I like to win.
I can tell.
You know me as well as anybody out there, right? 90 seconds slower. You're putting this on children these days being less competitive or more disinterested and not the screen time, obesity, laziness, and lethargy?
I asked a question. I didn't make a statement.
It's a fair question.
Know.
Judah attributes it to, the kids these days, they're just smoking the Chiba before the 1 mile race. And they're more concerned with their Cocoa Puffs and their Cinnamon Toast Crunch as opposed to finishing the mile in sub 6 minutes or sub 7 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Who doesn't? I had Cinnamon Toast Crunch this morning. My favorite aspect of this, I sincerely did. My favorite aspect of this
cereal milk
is the milk at the bottom of the bowl. Judah, you and I are clicking today.
Cereal milk is divine.
Why has someone not bottled the cereal milk and sold it?
Didn't they have that at the Milkman's Bar?
The Milkman's Bar, River Hawkins in Dairy Market, was serving cereal milk as part of his craft cocktails. River Hawkins and the late, great Wilson Ritchie, no longer part of Dairy Market in the Milkman's Bar. In fact, have you been to Dairy Market of late?
It's been a month or two.
My friend, it is struggling.
Aren't they? They've probably got construction going on right now.
Struggling. Dino is single-handedly keeping this market afloat. Single-handedly. I've been to the Star Hill Tap Room with my wife, my kids, maybe half a dozen times in the last, 3 or 4 months. And oftentimes we are the only customers there. Like my wife and I and our 2 boys have total run of the entire tap room at Star Hill in Dairy Market.
Yeah.
A lot we're going to cover on this program. And speaking of beer, we'll highlight Pro Nata. I mean, you're excited for this, right?
Yeah.
March 27th. Well, your boy Tim's coming, Shropshire.
Yeah.
A comedy night of significant proportions, $10 tickets, or my suggestion would be you and your friends, you and your family, you and your loved ones, you and your special lady or your special guy, get a table of 4, and enjoy Dr. John Shabe and Pro Nata and their team as they continue to build the Disney World of Crozet. 27th of March, Judah, is in a couple days. Thursday,
Yep.
comedy night at Pro Renata. Arcade games, word on the street, coming to Pro Renata, ladies and gentlemen. John Shade continues to innovate and evolve. Pro Renata, guys, a brewery that is climbing with its trajectory. Top line revenue climbing, experience climbing. He is putting in the type of work that is keeping the brand at the forefront of the industry, and I give John Shea props and salute him for that. A lot we're going to cover on the show. The word on the street is Judah Wickower is about to morph into Glenn Youngkin. The former co-CEO of the Carlyle Group, Judah Wickower, is going to be Glenn Youngkin. And I'm going to be Bert Ellis in a meeting today where Youngkin tries to flex his political muscle and says, Bert, you're going to resign from the Board of Visitors, and you're going to claim it's either sickness or you're too busy as an Atlanta businessman. And Bert's going to push back to Glenn and says, no, I'm not. That would be lying, and that's against the honor code at the University of Virginia. And I am a double who, damn it. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that in a mere 15 or 20 seconds. First, we want to give some attention to John Vermillion and Andrew Vermillion. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. Believe we heard through the e-commerce grapevine, charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com had some orders today from North Carolina and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And a location on East High Street that is doing fantastic, especially now that the weather is breaking and pools are opening. Our pool is set to open.
Nice.
Charlottesville Sanitary Supply on East High Street, third generation business. Judah, but if you're a viewer and listener of the show, by now you know. The Washington Post reported yesterday that Glenn Youngkin wants Bert Ellis off the Board of Visitors. And he says Bert is too combative. He's too loud. He's too in your face. He's a bull in a china shop. He's ruffling feathers. He's too boisterous. He's too intense. He's too alpha. He's too, what? Do we dare say Trumponian in his tactics? Do we dare say a bit of theater and pomp in his circumstance in his approach? Where Youngkin...
I don't know if he cares about any of that.
I don't think he does. I don't think he does at all. Where Youngkin is more a behind-the-scenes mover and shaker. It's interesting. Ellis and Youngkin have commonalities. They want DEI eradicated from UVA. They're doing it. They've done it because they worked in conjunction with each other. But now they seem to be having a public divorce playing out before our very eyes. And they're meeting today in the governor's mansion. They're meeting today. Judah Wickower, as you morph into Glenn Youngkin, and me as I morph into Bert Ellis, I think it's a much easier morph for me.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
Well, you're very subdued and laid back and very professional and very even-keeled in demeanor, which I would imagine is what Glenn Youngkin is. I'm very boisterous and alpha and we're passionate, if you may, which is what Bert embodies. I think it would be easier for me to be Bert than for you to be Bert. I think I can code switch into Youngkin easily, but I'm very good at code switching. I think the code switching for you into Bert would be a challenge. You disagree?
I think I have a better understanding, or at least I know more about Bert in terms of his interactions with all this stuff.
Okay, well, Governor Youngkin, why do you want me off the board here? I made the trip to your governor's your mansion. Governor Youngkin, you appointed me to the board. Governor Youngkin, you took my campaign donation dollars. Governor Youngkin, you knew that I traveled from Atlanta with...
You know, Bert, I really like you.
Cut down a sign-off.
That's why I put you on the Board of Visitors. But do you hear what people are calling you?
That's just that damn Jerry Miller on the I Love CVille show making that phone call, making me that razor blade moniker. And now they're using it in the media. It wasn't even a razor blade, damn it. They were scissors.
Look.
They were scissors.
Okay. Let's get past that. Another problem we got is that you're too often you say the quiet part out loud.
It's so true. That's so true.
I need a little more subtlety on the Board of Visitors, okay? So I'm going to ask you to to step aside so I can put someone a little more simpatico with that's not gonna overshadow me. Governor Glenn Youngkin.
You had no issue taking my money for your campaign. You knew I was going to come in here and be a bull in a china shop. You know I'm a passionate double who. I'm the co-founder of the Jefferson Council. I bleed orange and blue. And if you don't believe I bleed orange and blue, watch me cut myself. I'll show it to you.
But you understand that needs change, right?
You used me, Governor Youngkin. You used me.
That may be true.
All you did was use me as a wrecking ball. You got what you wanted. Now you want me out.
Yeah. And as I get closer to moving on in my political career, I need people who are going to make me look better. And right now, you're not doing that.
Doesn't this make you look bad, Governor Youngkin? I've barely had any time on the board, and now you're divorcing me and you want me booted? What does that say about your loyalty and your character? I am who you thought I was.
Nobody in Virginia cares about character and loyalty. They'll forget about you within a week, and I'll move on to something better. And, maybe the next guy will put you back on the Board of Visitors if that's really what you want.
You both know. You know Spanberg will never put me on the Board of Visitors.
Who says she's going to win?
She's going to win. Abigail's going to win. She wants nothing to do with me. I want my 4 years. I'm not getting off this board.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
The interesting thing as we go back to Judah and Jerry is Youngkin actually has this call. He has the autonomy to boot him off the board. This is a great question for John Blair, who's watching the program. John, do we have a governor? I should know this. Has there been a governor that has booted midterm? Name the governor, or if there's been a case midterm of booting a Board of Visitors member off the UVA Board of Visitors during their term. Mm-hmm. I would love to know that. John Blair would know that. Jim Hingley, do you know that? I would love to know that. I would absolutely love to know that. And I would love to be a fly on the wall in the Ellis Youngkin meeting.
No doubt.
Because I'll bet you $100 there's not a chance in hell that Ellis is going to resign.
Oh, there's no way.
He's going to fight tooth and nail, and he'll say to the Governor Youngkin, if you want me off this board, you're going to have to use your influence as a governor and let everyone know that you're booting me off this board after appointing me to it.
Yeah.
That's how he's going to go down. He'll go down in a gunfight before he walks away from the gunfight. Mm-hmm. This is the 2025 version of the OK Corral. And the Earp brothers ain't afraid of anybody. And certainly no cowboys, and certainly not Johnny Ringo. And Wyatt Earp is going to go toe-to-toe with anyone. And the Earp in this situation is Burt Ellis. It's not Glenn Youngkin. And if anything, Glenn Youngkin is the Johnny Ringo, and he's the red sash-wearing cowboys at the OK Corral. Because if he does follow through and assassinate, eviscerate, terminate Ellis from the board, this is a sign of Glenn Youngkin's loyalty and character. Because all he did was use Ellis as a wrecking ball, as a bull in a china shop, as a pawn or megaphone to get diversity, equity, and inclusion completely removed from the University of Virginia. And that's dirty politics. And its timing is even worse because there's 9 months left in his term?
I'm frankly baffled that he would even bother.
Makes no political sense why he would do this. Yeah. He's on his way out. Why would he do it? But that's the case. That's the politics we're in. Vanessa Parkhill liked the role-playing that we were doing right there.
What's that?
She liked the role-playing we were doing right there. Jeremy Wilson says, man, those Fruity Pebbles, that Fruity Pebble milk is oh so good. Vanessa Parkhill says, it seems Mr. Ellis is more about UVA and Jefferson's legacy and less big picture politics. 100%. Great comment from VP, Queen of Earlysville. Ellis is 100% more about UVA and Thomas Jefferson's legacy and less about being a politician. 1,000%.
Oh, yeah.
He's already gone through a character assassination. He doesn't care if he has the OK Corral gunfight with the red sash wearing cowboys and Johnny Ringo.
He probably sits around with his buddies and
drinks bourbons and smokes cigars
and
late night at the White Spot and talks about this.
What they're saying.
And literally enjoys this. Randy O'Neill, his comments. Youngkin has shown himself to be another of the same old useful idiot the governor ticks. I'm not sure what you're saying here. Youngkin has shown himself to be another of the same old useful idiot. I'm not sure what the comment is here, Randy O'Neill. I would happily read your comment here, but I don't understand the comment that you're leaving right there, sir. Well, I hope there's follow-up to this story.
Mm-hmm.
I sincerely hope there's follow-up to this story because it's a juicy one. It is a juicy, juicy story. Washington Post should be the ones that offer the follow-up, and I'd love to know who the sources are with the Washington Post. I'd love to know who the sources are, who they're citing, who they're quoting. All right, what's the next headline? Judah Wickhauer, jack of all trades, jack of all wits. And I welcome anyone to come on the show to talk about this. And frankly, I'll close with this. I will close with this. Mr. Ellis's approach could use a little bit more
subtlety.
Okay, subtlety. That's a good way of putting it, subtlety. But one thing you have to admire about Bert Ellis, and I hope Mr. Ellis hears this. I know he watches the show. One thing you have to admire about Bert Ellis is he is unafraid, he's unabashed, and he's unwilling to change. He is himself, and he will be himself regardless of public or popular opinion. And it takes a certain set of confidence and a certain sense of like personality makeup to be unbending in who you are personality-wise, regardless if it's unpopular.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's willing to do things like that. All right, next topic. What do you got, Judah Wickhauer?
President Ryan's comments on the tragic triple murder at UVA.
He basically, in his comments, says, I can't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
He says, we're grieving the loss. I know the redacted report's going to make you angry. I'm sure you want to know more. We're still figuring this out. This report that went out, we can't really say anything. Our hands are tied, right?
We redacted some of it because I'm curious why there are so many student records in these reports. I'm not sure how that relates to safety at the school or what could have been done to prevent the tragedy. But yeah, prohibited by federal law from disclosing student records, which he says is a broad category that encompasses everything we don't want you to know about. No, that's not what he said. He said it encompasses many different types of information institutions keep about their students. And there are also limited redactions to protect information that could impact safety and security operations. In other words, if people knew how we do things, they might be able to get around them and that would
he basically says universities are prohibited by federal law from disclosing student records, which is a broad category that encompasses many different types of information institutions keep about their students.
Yeah, but we've already heard from other people that that's kind of a
bogus.
That's kind of a...
That's phony. You're hiding behind...
Yeah.
You're hiding behind...
I get it. You can't put the student records in there, but why would the student records be in the reports in the first place?
Yeah, I mean...
Like, do the records of any of the students have any relation to what happened? I'm just curious how they ended up in there in the first place.
Great questions. And if you're a parent and you're considering sending your school, your young man or your your young lady or your young man, your son or daughter to UVA, wouldn't you, for peace of mind, want to know what happened? Wouldn't you want to feel like your kid's going to be safe there?
And you would think that you could come up with what's the word? Like a low information
like a statement.
Summary.
Issue like a statement, like
Yeah,
the Cliff
like-
Notes, some kind of like what we saw in the courtroom. That 5-page report, that 5-page summary that was read in the courtroom, that's public record.
Yeah.
We talked about that when Mr. Jim Hingley was on the show. Happy Perry, one of the dead UVA football players' mother, Deshaun Perry's mom, she said, I learned more from that 5-page report that was read in court than I did from this redacted report.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cliff Notes version would even create more transparency. Would breed trust.
Yeah. Just a 2 or 3 paragraph timeline of what happened that led to the events of that night.
When you're sending redacted reports to the parents of Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis, and Deshaun Perry, and those redacted reports are sent via email, and those parents can't forward the email to anyone, nor can they print the email because it's encrypted and encoded. What you're doing is you're creating this sense of gatekeeper distrust. You're creating this sense of we got something to hide. You're creating this sense of we're more concerned of the exposure and the lawsuit than telling you what really happened.
Yeah.
That's wrong. That's particularly wrong with all the other stuff that's going on with the health system and the pro-Palestine protests.
And it's just a really bad look.
It's a terrible look. It's a terrible look. Next headline. What do you got? Jack of all trades, jack of all wits. Doing a hell of a job today, Judah Whitcower. Doing a hell of a job.
Sleep Out CVille.
Sleep Out CVille. A great event. Of course, we took a great event and we took it to a different level here on the I Love CVille Show because that's what we do. The mayor, Juan Diego Wade, I think Troy Robinson was a part of this. I have a lot of respect for Troy Robinson and other local influencers. Any other names you want to highlight?
I think those are the 2 big ones.
They took part in Sleep Out CVille. Wanted to see firsthand the perspective of what it was like to be houseless in the Charlottesville area.
Yeah.
I applaud them for the effort. I applaud them for keeping houselessness in the narrative, in the news cycle. If you watch this program, some may say you're critical of the houseless. I'm not critical of the houseless. I offer hand-ups. I want to give hand-ups to people, not handouts, but hand-ups to people. Do I think the houseless should be on the downtown mall? No, I don't. Do I think we should do a better job of figuring that out? Absolutely. Troy Robinson, Juan Diego Wade, and others, they said, all right, we're going to spend the night out in Charlottesville, and we're gonna let you know what it's like. Great job, Mayor. Mayor's running for re-election. When he's doing things like this, it humanizes him. It localizes him. It personalizes him. And when you're building a brand, humanizing, localizing, and personalizing a brand are 3 very important strategies utilized to build brand equity. Juan Diego Wade gets it. He's likable. He's approachable. He's affable. He gets it. He is walking the walk and talking the talk. This gets Judah and I talking in our pre-production meeting. If you had to spend the night outside for 1 night, for 2 nights, for a week, for a month in the Charlottesville area, what would be the best place to do it and why? And Judah said that's a slam dunk. And before I get to this topic, I'll highlight John Blair, who answered our question. Please get his photo on screen. Jerry, the governor may only remove a member of the Board of Visitors for malfeasance, misfeasance, incompetence, or gross neglect of duty pursuant to the Virginia Code Section 23.1-1300. Bob McDonald threatened to remove the entire BOV during the Teresa Sullivan drama. Bob's son was a UVA student at the time. Didn't follow through on that. Helen Dragas was leading that charge. The developer out of the Virginia Beach area, Helen Dragas. Helen Dragas tried to do a clandestine cloak and dagger, behind the scenes, backroom dealing coup to get Terry Sullivan booted as president. But she lost. And she lost because the staff at the University of Virginia, the faculty, said, if you do this, we're out too. And then Helen Dragas had her power emasculated, eviscerated. That's what happened. That was a crazy saga right there. Another interesting wrinkle. Did you know that 3 Board of Visitors members cannot meet in person?
Yeah.
If 3 meet in person, that then is a call for an official meeting. So Bert Ellis, who literally calls himself the whip of the Board of Visitors because he whips up interest and whips up movement and votes, is calling the other 16 board members, because there's 17 total and he's one, and he's whipping them into shape.
But he's got to do it one at a time because
Got to do it one at a time.
Can't conference call.
Can't. Got to do it one at a time. So is that? Hey, come over to the White Spot. I'll make you a double Gus burger
Heck yeah.
with pickles.
Tell me what you want. Tell me what you want, Bert. It's done.
A soda. Maybe we can have a Dr. Pepper. A Dr. Pepper and a double Gus burger with pickles. And we'll finish it off with a grills with. And I want to talk about whipping you into shape on the Board of Visitors here. And we got to get this DEI out of office. Is that the conversation at the White Spot, Gina Wickman? Very ironic.
Somewhat possible.
There's tremendous irony, maybe sad irony, that some of this might happen at the White Spot. Sad irony. Sad irony.
Are you bringing race into this?
It's called the White Spot, is it not? Is it not called the White Spot? And he's the co-owner of it. Is it not? Am I wrong? Did anything I say was incorrect?
I didn't say it was.
I did not. What was the topic? Where would you sleep outside?
I mean, if you want the best place, you want someplace close to facilities.
You're going to say the downtown mall?
No, I'm going to say the Market Street Park.
Yeah, the Market Street Park would be hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean,
hard to beat the Market Street Park. Hard to beat the Court Square Park.
You're a stone, an easy stone. Like anybody could toss. Like my 3-year-old niece could toss the stone from the park to the Haven.
Yeah.
And then you've got
the soup kitchens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be hard to beat the Market Street Park. And that's probably why we saw Sandersville erected in Market Street Park.
It's convenient.
The Charlottesville version of Hooverville.
Yeah.
So affectionately named after city manager Sam Sanders, where he inexplicably, early in his city manager term or tenure, he allowed the houseless to build a tent city, a tent town in Market Street Park. That shows you the market would do it at Market Street Park. The marketplace is saying if we could be houseless or homeless anywhere and we could erect tent towns, it would be in Market Street Park because we're across the street from the Haven and we're within a hop, skip, and a jump of a handful of soup kitchens around the downtown mall, including the one that's on 3rd Street. The one that's on 3rd Street is extremely popular at lunchtime, to the point where the line is occasionally wrapped around the block. I was going to say Market Street Park. The only other challenge I could find with that would be the banks of the Rivanna River. If you hike or walk the Rivanna Trail, you will often see homeless encampments around the Rivanna River. But to your point, what you're gaining in the river and washing and bathing in the river, or maybe privacy of being on the banks of the river, more of a wooded area, you're losing in food availability and panhandling opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think my next my next spot would probably be somewhere behind Barracks.
Barracks Road Shopping Center? What are you going to do with that in the Millmont shops? Next the Spectacle Shop and the Karate Dojo and by Sedona Tap House?
Yeah.
Where are you going to do it? By Eljo's Traditional Clothes? You're going to get some tweed coats when you're homeless?
Okay.
Why behind Barracks Road Shopping Center? I'll stop now. I'll stop being a jokester.
It's by 64. There are some
some
wooded areas. Not 64. 250. That's what I meant. There are some wooded areas that you can find that are just like right off the road, and like you said, it would have a little more privacy, and you just pop out of the woods and you're right there at Barracks. And pretty close to a lot of other stuff as well. But being downtown is by far
that's why it's all
the most advantageous.
That's why it's the biggest congregation of the houseless is downtown. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's cut to the chase. That's why it's downtown. They've built the infrastructure for it to happen. Right?
I don't know if I'd say they built the infrastructure for it to happen, but there's plenty around for to make it a good place to squat.
Philip Dow loves the grilled donuts and ice cream reference. He's watching in Scottsville. VP says Mayor Wade is extremely authentic. Randy clarifies his comment by saying Glenn Youngkin has kept the good old boy network alive and financially whole. The state routinely discriminates against small business in favor of the politically owned not-for-profits. Radio Neil, I appreciate the comment. Thank you for watching the show. Got TV, radio, and print watching the program as we speak. We're working on, I think I can say this, I'm not speaking out of turn. We're working with potentially Neil Williamson. You saw the email of hosting a candidate forum for the candidates that are running for Charlottesville City Council, Pinkston and Wade. And what's the new candidate's name?
Was it Jen Fleischer?
Very nicely done, Judah. You're on point today. 3 candidates for 2 seats, possibly hosting that forum with Neil Williamson here on the I Love CVille Network. We would gladly offer our network to host a candidate forum for Charlottesville City Council candidates. Next headline, Judah Wickower, what do you got?
Ghost Kitchen Biz
Oh, Deep Throat's
model.
got some comments. Deep Throat says, Ryan is hiding behind the FERPA law, which seems very bogus to me.
That's what
Maybe
a lot of
one of
people
your
have said.
legal eagle listeners has a different view, but the FERPA explanation for redactions seems pretextual. I will also highlight Deep Throat. One of his children is quite the comedian and did a stand-up routine recently that was A++. Ginny Who gives us the retweet. Elliot Harding liking the show on Twitter. Love Elliot Harding. We got to get him back on the program. The next headline was what?
Ghost Kitchen Biz model and potential CVille spots.
Well, you and I, the Miller organization and what we do, we're constantly helping businesses grow market share through an improved digital and social media footprint, through improved leasing or purchase of real estate, through funding the business to help them grow, right? Through just strategy and consulting, through joint ventures and partnership creation, by utilizing our network of expertise to help them grow. Do you not see the massive potential, and I'm curious of your opinion on this, do you see massive potential where an established restaurateur says, to hell with being in the labor game of having all this staff on payroll, I'm going to completely change my model, and I'm going to stay in food and beverage, but instead I'm going to do a ghost kitchen, and I'm going to use social media and digital marketing and third-party delivery to establish a handful of different brands. Maybe it's a salad brand, a sandwich brand, a dessert brand. Maybe it's an Italian brand. Maybe it's maybe it's a burger brand, whatever it may be. And we're going to use this ghost kitchen and digital brand and social media and third-party delivery to sell food. They can't eat it at our place. They won't serve by people. We're not going to have a host. We're not going to have a busboy. We're not going to have waiters and waitresses. We're not going to have a bartender. We're not going to have somebody on the cash register. We're not going to have someone sweeping the floors. All we are going to have is a pickup window and third-party delivery. Isn't that potential? I mean, geez Louise. The College Inn is operating a ghost kitchen out of the Biltmore Grill on Elliowood Avenue. The College Inn is alive and doing well. You can order the steak and cheese and the chicken parm from the College Inn, and it's operating out of a kitchen in the Biltmore on Elliowood Avenue. Who's going to be the food and beverage entrepreneur? And many of you, there goes Andrew Wilder, the talented attorney. Many restaurant owners watch this program. Which one of you is going to pivot into owning and operating a ghost kitchen? And where would you do it? First, do you believe in the model, Judah?
I believe it's viable. I don't know that I don't know that I would be celebrating restaurateurs around and throughout Central Virginia, giving a big middle finger to their staffs and saying, "Hey, I'm going to do this alone.
Well, he's going to need back of the house staff. He's going to need someone work at the grill. He might need probably will need an expo. He'll need 3 to 4 staff members, I would say, back of the house.
That sounds like family to me.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying that in a time when so many businesses are saying, "Look, profits over people." I don't want to see that in every aspect of my life.
Okay, I respect that. I appreciate that response. I will respectfully push back on you. Respectfully. The profits over people I'm seeing in a big box capacity, in a Fortune 50, Fortune 100, 200, and Fortune 500 capacity. On a locally owned level, it's not profits over people. You know what it is? It's how the hell do I keep my lights on? How do I pay the mortgage at our house? That's what these businesses in this community are at. And you ask, how do I know that? Because we are the confessional of business in Central Virginia. You know this as well as I do. You've worked here 14 years. The one thing I will say about Judah Wickower, and I'll say a lot of things about Judah Wickower, most of them nice. And he would say a lot of things about me, very few of them nice. We hear the dark and dirty of business at this shop, do we not? We hear.
You do.
What's that?
You do.
Okay. You are privy to it.
Some of it.
And one of the aspects that I appreciate of you is your confidentiality.
Who am I going to tell?
You keep things on the low. How we get the information we get for this show is because we're trusted in this community with information. Mm-hmm. I'm having a text correspondence yesterday of a major business in this community that's in financial difficulty. I'm not going to mention who that is. It just was passed along to me for a little bit of color, a little bit of behind the scenes. Significant story. I'm not going to mention it. And the person has passed me a number of stories, a boatload of information. And why they do that is because the person trusts me, because I have a proven track record. The little guy is just trying to figure out a way to keep his mortgage and his lights on. And if the little guy could employ 5 people, maybe not the 25 of running a full-service restaurant, but 5 is better than 0 people.
That's fair.
And I see an opportunity for somebody who's established that has a kitchen that has low overhead, and the overhead is associated with rent. So you can go from a Class A district to maybe a warehouse or Class C district. That's going to drop your rent thousands of dollars, in some cases tens of thousands of dollars. You know the milk and honey, the new Ralph Sampson?
Yeah.
That place, the rent is over $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody filled the old Trevinia spot in Stonefield by the movie theater?
I don't know.
As the movie theater in Stonefield, the space right next to it where the Italian restaurant used to be, Trevinia, has that been filled, viewers and listeners? The chitter chatter and scuttlebutt on the street was flirting $30,000 a month. There's a reason these types of places are not going to make it. Reason number 1 is the obscene overhead associated with the spot.
Yeah.
If you can take that overhead and cut it by 75%, that's more opportunity to stay in business.
But see, it's profits over people all the way up.
How's that profits over? See, this is the difference right here, Judah and I, this conversation, is the difference between someone, and I mean this in no disrespect. In no disrespect.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I don't have
This is the difference between somebody
acumen.
who has to sign the checks and generate the revenue and somebody who is earning the checks. Someone who is earning a check every 2 weeks versus somebody who is signing the checks and having to generate the revenue for the checks to be there every 2 weeks.
Okay. But let's talk about Trevinia.
Okay.
It was probably one of the more expensive spaces in Stonefield, right?
Probably the second most expensive space in Central Virginia. I would say number 1 is Ralph's, number 2 is Trevinia, both island pads.
And how long has it been empty? Years?
Long time.
Years.
Yeah, very long time.
But a developer or a property owner, somebody that owns a place like, and I'm not just talking about Stonefield, but in general, They would rather it remain empty than bring the price down. I mean,
that's not actually always true.
I know. I'm sure it's not always
Okay,
true.
can I explain how
Yeah.
this works? This is what we do here, right? Just because Trevinia is closed, and I'm not speaking for Trevinia here, but I do know this is the case for a lot of the vacancy and the shopping center, strip shopping centers on Route 29. Just because the business is closed and is not operating and the storefront is empty doesn't mean the landlord is still not collecting rent.
That's fair.
Okay, and what I do professionally here,
You're saying if somebody leaves early, they may still be paying.
they're still paying rent. So the landlord basically has an empty space that's getting no wear and tear, not getting beat up. His parking lot's not getting beat up. His common area is not getting beat up. There's minimal common area maintenance. Can you imagine somebody that has a storefront or a restaurant that is still paying rent? They're still paying a triple net lease, common area maintenance, their portion of the interest and their portion of the taxes, and they're not operating a business out of it? That's one of the best case scenarios possible for the landlord. No potholes in the parking lot, no beat up on the walls, no beat up on the doors, no beat up on the roofs, no beat up on the HVACs, taxes and insurance still getting paid, still collecting the rent on the first. Of course they want to leave that empty. I've had many a tenant that said, I need to break the lease. I said, well, we have a signed lease that's personally guaranteed here. I will work with you a little bit on the break because I'm a generous guy, but you're going to have to pay a penalty. And then the space stays empty, and I'm just I collected the lump sum at lease break, or I'm collecting the payment every month. I ain't sad.
I get that.
Do we know if Trevinia is still paying rent?
No, we don't.
Right? It's owned by what? The O'Connor Partners?
Something like that.
Out of New York? Next headline. What do you got, J-Dubs?
Let's see. What's a worse biz neighbor than Tesla?
I mean, what is a worse biz neighbor than Tesla? And I want to make a correction here with Conan. He said he did not mention the three-letter behemoth specifically.
He didn't?
No. He said worse business neighbor than Tesla. He said, how about a tax-advantaged, taxpayer-subsidized monstrosity that can buy up property more easily than any developer? But he did not specifically mention.
No, he didn't.
I inferred that and said that. So
Yeah.
he wanted me to correct myself.
It was a good inference.
He wanted me to correct myself there. I mean, that's a good point that he's made right there. Right? Is that not a good point?
Yeah.
Were you going to offer one?
I've got some joke ones. I mean,
As long as the joke one's not a locally owned business.
no.
I mean, I will say that there's some development projects locally that are making things extremely challenging all over town for their neighbors. I mean, we can rattle them off. I highlighted the development that's happening right next to Moe's on Ivy Road.
Yeah.
But, let's see how it plays out with Tesla. I mean, if that's Tesla Gallery in Stonefield, if that gets dozens or a couple hundred protesters on the regular,
It's not.
with signs and pickets and chants, I mean, you'd have to ask for a discount on rent if you're the neighbors.
I would be surprised if the protesters can keep it up for. I mean, it very much depends on Trump's actions, but we're already seeing his stock go back up, and
Tesla stock,
yeah,
it had a little pop, a little rebound, a little rally.
It'll go up further. Nobody's gonna stay.
We're seeing a lot of Teslas getting destroyed and burnt.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of Democrat on Democrat hate right now. I mean,
I don't think it can keep its
vitriol?
hate-filled spark alit for 4 years.
Time will tell. Time will tell. I think we're both in agreement that Musk is going to open that gallery, and he's not afraid, right? The similarities with
It's already paid for. I don't know why
it's already
anyone
leased.
is. Yeah, it's already leased. But come on.
The similarities between the Musk and Ellis personality profiles are pretty evident. Pretty evident. I highlighted the dark triad on previous shows.
The dark what?
The dark triad.
The dark triad.
You're familiar with the dark triad personality type, right?
Is that an Enneagram thing?
No. Narcissism, Machiavellism, and psychopathy.
Okay. I don't know. I've never heard the dark triad.
You should take a look at
theory,
the dark triad. Research it after the show. Viewers and listeners, research it after the show. I'm sure you will know someone who embodies the dark triad. We got a couple more headlines. Is the Chance Mallory the last one? Hello. Someone's waving to us over there.
Oh, really?
That was a viewer and listener, yeah. What's the next headline? Let's Chance Mallory the last one?
No. Next up, we got slow kids.
Oh, my God. Insane. All right, I'll close with these here. The kids today are running the mile on average 90 seconds slower than kids in the 1980s. I mentioned this to my wife, and she was completely taken aback. We have two boys, a 7-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. 90 seconds slower than they did in the 80s. To put that in perspective, the mile at a high school is generally 4 laps around the track. I was running a lap in about, I don't know, depending on the day, somewhere between, 55 and 65 seconds, and depending on how many laps that I had run. So if they're running at if they're running at 90 seconds slower the mile, they are an entire run around the track and another half run slower than we were in the 80s. That is an ASS kicking that you would be doing in the 80s versus today's kids. And if that is not an indictment of screen time and the lethargy and the laziness, the sluggishness, the gluttonous, obesity equated with screen time, I don't know what is. So
is the implication that they can't run faster?
The implication is they're not as active as they once were. So the endurance is not there to run as we did in the 80s.
Okay.
And this is where, and when I was a kid, I'd walk up and 10 miles in snow barefoot to get to school and 10 miles back. I get that's what people saying. Not in my backyard.
Oh yeah, well, there's also
I get that.
News in the paper about parents being angry their kids have to walk a little farther to get to school, and yeah, when I was
news
a kid,
in the paper that the kids have to walk a little further to get their kids to school, and fear that it will create truancy and tardiness.
And some of those, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of those. How they're thinking along those lines may not be too wrong. It wasn't so much that kids are just going to not go to school because they have to walk a little farther. I think that had to do more with like when it's raining or snowing and you've got to walk a mile to your school instead of an eighth of a mile. Yeah, I can kind of understand not wanting to go walk a mile in the snow, but yeah, it's like yesterday's problems are. Or today's problems are yesterday's just,
routine, norm, expectations,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
90 seconds slower today's children versus kids running the mile in the 1980s. 90 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. That is an absolute indictment on social media and screen time.
I still don't understand why you keep saying that.
Because what do you not understand? Judah, your kids are spending more time YouTubing and TikToking than they are playing soccer and baseball, riding bicycles, running around, playing in the cul-de-sac, playing tag, playing hide and go seek. And because they're spending more time on social media, Instagram, TikToking, and YouTubing, Snapchatting, they're not developing the leg strength, the core strength, the endurance, the aerobic foundation needed to run a mile like we did in the 80s. This is very straightforward.
I know. But as the saying goes, correlation does not always imply causation.
In this case, it absolutely does. Spend any time with a 7-year-old boy like I do every day, and you will see what YouTube doom scrolling will do to a 7-year-old boy's mood, his commitment to playing outside and doing things outside the house, and his frankly in touch nature of being in the moment. I often say I can be sitting next to my son when he's doom scrolling on YouTube with a bag of Skittles and say, son, you can eat all these Skittles if you want. Do you want them? And he will not hear me when he's doom scrolling YouTube. That is called drugs. That is drugs. And that's what we're giving our kids.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It's to the point where
I don't disagree with you on any of that.
It's to the point where we're choosing after-school activities 5 days a week for our kid, sports-wise, even paying out of pocket for them. 90 minutes a day after school to do sports. So there's zero chance screens are a part of his after-school activity. It's not even an option because we don't let it be an option. All right, I'll close with this, and you can put me on a one-shot. I thought you did a hell of a job today.
Thank you.
Hell of a job. Chance Mallory is a point guard from St. Anne's Belfield. He is a senior. He's about to graduate. He just committed on Saturday to Ryan Odom in the University of Virginia. He's 5'9". He's one of the best point guard commitments and recruits in the entire nation. He's a 4-star prospect. He's a guy you build an entire program around. This guy is going to be the face of Ryan Odom and UVA basketball for years to come, especially with the fact that he's local, St. Anne's Belfield, a hop, skip, and a jump. I think that's the third reference to hop, skip, and a jump on the show from the John Paul Jones Arena. I genuinely think, and I'm going to use Anthony Calandria and the $800,000 he was earning and NIL compensation last year as the quarterback of Virginia football. I genuinely think that Chance Mallory is earning more than $800,000. Because if Anthony Calandria is given $800,000 to quarterback a horrible football team in front of a half-empty Scott Stadium for a coach in a program that has got the most losses a coach in a program that has the least amount of wins of any football team in any of the power conferences. That's Virginia football and Tony Elliott over the last 3 years. The least amount of victories, look it up, this is a fact. The least amount of wins of any coach, any program over the last 3 years, Tony Elliott in Charlottesville. And they gave their quarterback $800,000 to lead that poop show. What is a guy like Chance Mallory, who's one of the most significant commitments in college basketball, recruiting, what is he going to earn? He's got to be north of 8. And if I was a betting man, I'd put it north of $1 million. In 2025, you can earn more than $1 million as a senior in high school to play basketball as a 5'9" point guard. Only in America, ladies and gentlemen. Only in America. Thank you for joining us. For Judah Wickhauer, I'm Jerry Miller.